What's going on, people? It's your boy Neeks, and I'm back again with some more cricket. The cricket season, I say it's upon us. It never really ended, did it? We had a great World Cup. Obviously, you can see I'm donning my West Indies colours, despite the pain they put us through. But we're not even talking about West Indies today. We are talking about the Ashes. England versus Australia. I tell you, this has to be, it's the biggest. It's the biggest. When it comes to Test cricket, it's definitely the biggest rivalry in the sport. India, Pakistan, of course, they've got a massive rivalry, which is a lot to do with the politics. Somewhat Australia, England is political in terms of history, not so much in today's world. But when it comes to cricket and the Ashes, there's no bigger series. There's none. The whole world holds its breath. The whole world has their eyes peeled on what's going to happen in the Ashes. Now, the beauty of this series is the fact that it starts and marks the start of the World Test Championship. Now, for years, we've been calling for Test cricket to have a meaning. We can't just be playing a series here, a series there. You win a trophy, that's just regards to that series. But when you ask who's the best team in the world, everyone has a different answer. You have the T20 World Cup. You've got the franchise T20 leagues. You've got the Cricket World Cup, obviously the 50-over tournament we just had. You've got the ICC Champions Trophy. Every other format of the game has tournaments that determine the outright winner. Who is the best other than Test cricket? But now, as I said, August the 1st, the start of the World Test Championship. Every series, every game now has a meaning because it carries points. Games are played over a 2-year period, and at the end of the 2-year period, whoever has the most points wins. Now, you may be thinking, oh, well, some teams are going to play more tests than others, etc., etc. Points are spread across a series. So it's 120 points per series. If you've got a 5-test match, then it's going to be 24 points per match, per win. If you've got a 2-test match series, then it's 60 points per win. 120 points across the series, no matter how long it is. And the Ashes, as I say, it takes another dimension. The fact that we just had the Cricket World Cup. England knocked out Australia, who are, they won 4 out of the last 5 World Cups before this year. They knocked out Australia en route to winning their first ever 50-over tournament. And now they go again in the 5-day game in the whites. And they're going to duel it out as of tomorrow, well, the 1st of August, depending on when you are watching this. First test starts in Edgbaston, and there is big news when it comes to the squads. We're going to go through, well, the England team they've actually confirmed their team already, which is a bit surprising, but then I guess there was only really doubt about 1 or 2 issues, and the first one being Joe Root. Where will Joe Root bat? Now, for years, people have been saying he needs to bat at 3. Your best batsman bats at 3. England, since Alistair Cook, haven't had any good openers. They can't fill those top 3 positions, which means that he's coming in basically as an opener anyway. 30 for 2, 10 for 2. I've seen it all. He's come in and he's had to do the job of an opener or a number 3 batsman. And he said, you know what? You have to come in at 3. It's about time. And the way the batting has been going and the uncertainty around the team, I think that was the only option. For me, him and Stokes, I would say, is their only world-class batsman. The rest of them, they got their strengths, but technique-wise as well, especially when it comes to Test cricket, they're questionable. A lot of them are questionable. We're going to run through the team. The England team, they've got Jason Roy, Rory Burns opening the batting. Of course, Jason Roy, we saw that he scored some runs in his first Test match against Ireland, which England just about, well, I say in the end, it was a comfortable win, but on the scorecard, but it was anything but comfortable throughout the game. Jason Roy got some runs in the second innings. So back on the back of the World Cup, he's going into the game, I want to say in confident, because it's Test cricket. You can never take it too lightly. But he's the best prepared he could have been. I'll say best prepared he could have been. His technique is going to be tested by the Australian batsman, the swinging red ball. He doesn't open for his counter. He comes in at number 5 and number 6. So it's going to be a complete different element to it. Now, there was a few of the pundits did their 11s, who they would pick for the England 11 before the series. And Nasser Hussain made a very good point. He said, you know what, put whoever you want at 1 and 2. I don't really care, because whoever you put there, they're not making no runs anyway. So you can make a case for anyone, and there's no guarantee they're going to make runs. In the end, he said, well, if you have to do it, then Denley and James Vince. But it doesn't really matter. He said England's strength is their middle order. Roy, Butler, Bairstow, Stokes, they like to bat down in the middle order, the middle to low order. So focus on the strengths. Don't sacrifice one at the top just because you need to fill a position if that's going to take away from the strengths. However, England haven't listened to Nasser Hussain in this regard, and they've gone with Jason Roy and Rory Burns. Rory Burns, who looks a bit of a walking wicket at the moment. It's a worry for England because it means Joe Root, as I said, might be coming in as an opener pretty much if Rory Burns is getting out early. He's moving when the ball is delivered. He doesn't look settled at the crease, and he's struggling. We'll say that he's struggling a lot. And England are going to have to... Well, Australia will give him a working over, the likes of Cummins, etc. But we'll get onto their team in a bit. Joe Root, as I said, captain, coming in at 3 finally. Yes, his best position in terms of personal average is at number 4. He gets 60 odd. But you're the best batsman. You can't be hiding from the swinging ball. If you can't play that ball, how do you expect anyone else to? So you're hiding yourself and putting your teammates, who you captain, to the slaughter basically. But he's taken responsibility finally after a while, because as I said, he had batted at 3 before and he's dropped back down to 4. Finally, he's realised that this is the only option, and he's gone up to 3. Then they've got Joe Denley coming in at 4, and then England's strength: Jos Buttler 5, Ben Stokes 6, and wicketkeeper Bairstow at 7. Now, if I was the England selector, Butler wouldn't be in my team. He really wouldn't. I don't even know if I'd have Denley, but I'll probably have Denley opening, if anything. But Butler wouldn't be in my team. I think there's too many batsmen in that middle order, other than Denley, after the route. So from 4 down to 7, and you could argue even below than that, from 4 down to 11. The techniques of these batsmen aren't great. Stokes is better than the others as the all-rounder, but Butler hasn't got a technique for Test cricket. Now, he may come back to bite, maybe eat my words, and he might play a starring role in this the Ashes series, but he hasn't got a technique for Test cricket. Johnny Bairstow, yes, he scored runs, but his technique ain't great. I guess against the older ball when it ain't swinging, he can score some runs on flat pitches, but we saw what happened when they were in the West Indies. All of them were exposed by the pace and the bounce and the fire of the West Indies bowlers. And if Australia come with anything like that, obviously depending on how the pitches play out, I can't see these batsmen surviving. Now, it may come down to a thing of our bowlers are better than yours, or our batsmen cope with the swinging ball more than yours is, but I can't see the batsman being the key to this series. You probably get a one batsman to go on throughout the innings. That will get you to a reasonable score, and hope that your bowlers can bowl out the opposition for less. I don't rate Butler as a Test batsman. Well, ODI, yes. T20, yes. Brilliant, perfect, that's his game. I would have personally gone with Folkes. I think he's more secure with the bat, and arguably you could have given him the gloves because he is the best keeper out of the 3 if you're comparing Folkes, Butler and Bairstow. But even as just a batsman, I still would have had Folkes ahead of Butler. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Stokes, of course, brilliant world-class player. Bairstow at 7, I think that's right, as the wicketkeeper. Then we've got Moeen Ali, who has forgotten how to hold a bat. So he's definitely in for his bowling, which is fair enough. Even though Jack Leach top scored in their match against Ireland. But, I mean, he didn't really have a chance to do any bowling. But I think Ali always had that position secure. If they ever have to play 2 spinners, at least they know that one of the spinners can bat. And I'm not talking about Moeen. Chris Woakes, Stuart Broad and Anderson. And this is where the big talking point has been. Because Archer was a key figure for England in the World Cup. They changed the rules about citizenship to make sure he was ready for the World Cup. Brought him into the World Cup. He bowled that final super over to win England the World Cup. But he hasn't been selected for the first test. And some may argue that he could be the difference in this series. Now, of course, it's a long series. They're going to probably have to rotate some of the bowlers because of how long the series is and injury issues between, you know, such as Wood, for example. But Archer's also had his injury issues. His injury issues, you could say, has plagued his career thus far. It's the reason why he was out of the West Indies team for the period he was before he moved to England. After the World Cup, he had a side strain, and he only had a T20 game to prove his fitness. And England said it's not worth the risk. Chris Woakes is on his home ground on the back of a 6-4 against Ireland. You've got your experience in the legendary partnership of James Anderson and Stuart Broad. We can't really go wrong here. So I think they played it, you could say, a bit safe, but I think it might be the right decision. Bring Archer in maybe in the 3rd and 4th test, depending on who the balance of side you want to go with and which of the bowlers might be struggling. So I would think it's probably a bit of a shootout between Woakes and Broad, and whoever is struggling, if they are struggling, that is, Archer may come in. For England's sake, they may not want to rely on Archer. They might say, if we're doing good enough, we just stick with this until the Ashes is won. But we have to remember, Australia hold out the Ashes. Australia are the team with the Ashes in the bag. They won the last series 4-0. Of course, that was at home. So England have to win. A draw is not good enough. They have to win the Ashes. And Australia aren't... They're not a team to be taken lightly. We know they're not as strong as they used to be. They're not the team of old. They have left themselves exposed to the ridicule of the media and the society back home and abroad for them because of the whole sandpaper gate. But they're back. You might call them the Three Musketeers. They're back. Bancroft, Warner, Smith, they're back. And they strengthen Australia, no doubt. We just hope that this series passes without such incident. The probable lineup, and there's going to be a shock you might hear for Australia, is David Warner opening alongside Cameron Bancroft. They're going to get some boos from the crowd, 100%. More than anyone else, Warner and probably Bancroft. Smith and Warner, obviously, they dealt with it during the World Cup and they scored runs, and you can say it didn't really affect them, but it ain't going to stop the Barmy Army from doing what they do. Then they've got Usman Khawaja coming in at 3 and Steve Smith at 4. That's the difference between England and Australia in terms of that 1, 2, 3, 4 positions, which for me is their strength. England's strength is in the middle order, Australia's at the top. Australia have got a world-class opener in David Warner, and they've got Usman Khawaja, who is a more than competent batsman, allowing Steve Smith to come in at 4 and really build the innings for Australia. England don't have that, so Joe Root is exposed and has to come in a bit earlier to make sure they're not in a crisis every time he's at the crease. Then it'll probably be between Travis Head and Mitchell Marsh for the number 5 position, Matthew Wade and Tim Payne, who is the captain, and of course the wicketkeeper. Then you've got Pat Cummins, who for me is Australia's best bowler. James Patterson, who has done very well, I think it's for Nottinghamshire this year. Nathan Lyon, of course, the spinner, very good spinner. Underrated early in his career, but he's proved the class. And then you got the big shock. To some, maybe not to others, but Mitchell Starc ain't playing. He's not there. And we know that left arm is dangerous. It's a wicket-taking arm. And when it comes to especially clean up the tail with those Yorkers, that's what he's about. He's a wicket-taking bowler. But Australia, like England, they have got massive strength in their bowling attack. They don't have to play Mitchell Starc. So it looks like the option for that last position is going to be between Josh Hazlewood, who's a very, very quality bowler, especially in Test cricket. His line and lengths are just immaculate. And then you got Peter Siddle, the workhorse, the veteran. He's somewhat of an experienced campaigner in Ashes series, and it could prove very crucial. If it was up to me, I would go with Josh Hazlewood. I think skillfully, he's a better bowler. And he's not young either. He's got experience himself, but Siddle offers that experience, and the fact that you know that if things are going wrong, you can turn to Peter Siddle. Go on, give me a few overs, give it all you got, get me a wicket. I'm not saying he's the most prolific wicket taker, but you know what you're going to get from him day in, day out. I would go with Josh Hazlewood, however. I said I think he's the better bowler. But Australia have those options. Just in terms of this test, England have a wonderful record at Edgbaston. I think on the back of the World Cup win, the atmosphere is there, the support is there, the crowd are going to be confident, the players should be confident. The toss is going to be very important, I think, probably for all the matches. But I'm going to just say England for this test. I have to say England for this test because of their record here and the high that they're currently riding on. But as I said, Test cricket is a different game. You end up 30 for 3 on the first morning and everything's changed. Everyone forgets about that super over. Everyone forgets about Martin Guptill, Ben Stokes, and the overthrow. Everyone forgets about it because it's go time. It's the World Test Championship. It is the Ashes. As far as the Ashes go, I'm backing Australia to not lose the Ashes, which means that they're going to at least draw the series. At first, I was saying England will win it because they got the home advantage. It's a long series, so it's so hard to predict. It's so hard to predict. So I'm going to sit on the fence a bit. I'm going to say 2-2. That result, of course, suits Australia because they take the Ashes back home. England want the win. England can easily get the win. I can't see Australia winning the series. That's what I would say. So for me, at best, it will be a draw, if not an England win. But I'm going to sit on the fence. I'm going to say 2-2. But of course, after the first match, see who performs. Injuries could prove a big decider within the series. I'm excited. I'm excited. I don't support either. But as I said, Test cricket is the pinnacle. And the Ashes, when it comes to rivalry, there is none better. So Australia, England, we want a clean, fair, but ferocious fight. That's what we want. We don't want no scandals. And we definitely don't want no incidents that we may have had in previous years. David Warner, Joe Root, I'm looking at you. But we want it to be intense. We want the energy. We want the passion that comes with this Ashes series. So England, Australia, the world is watching. The world is waiting. Guys, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button.